So I started doing some of that. I think some of them we've already done. So we've got Shushan Edith, which I just defined on the church online page, which is, it's a big word that translated means lilies, like the flowers. And there's really no explanation on that. It's likely or possible that it would be the name of the tune. So that's kind of all we have to go off of on that. I was going to look up Psalm 61 because it says Nagina, and I don't remember if did we define that one yet as a group? I don't know if that's happened yet, but I love Psalm 61. Upon Nagina, it's probably an instrument. Music, song, taunt song. Oh, that's right, a taunt song. We did define that. By the way, it could be also like a stringed instrument. It could be a musical setting as well as like a type of song. And so taunt, I'm not sure if you're hearing that well. It's T-A-U-N-T, which would be to mock or to kind of poke at. So maybe a bit of satire is coming into it a bit. I don't know. Let me write that in. Nagina. Music, song, taunt song. There we are. Let's see what else we need to define before we get reading here. Actually, I'm not seeing anything else. Nope, that's about it, actually. So there we are. 2 words to define today. All right, well, let me get all the tech running here, make sure we're working. Get up on Facebook, and then we'll start reading. Excited for today. A magnificent text that we're in at our church today. Give me a second. We are in Philippians 2, 5-8, which is an incredible passage. Can't wait for it. I feel like it's like this beautiful painting. It's a Van Gogh. It's it's like the Mona Lisa of a passage, and you've got like a teenage kid who's taken a credit in art, trying to explain it. So I feel bad for those listening today that they've gotten me to do it, but together I hope that we learn a lot from it and are encouraged, challenged by it as well. Good morning, Charlene. Good morning, Jerry Lee. And I don't see anybody else on the church page yet. You know what? That probably means I should refresh that page. That's happened to me before. I knew it. Okay. Good morning, Renee, Calders. And Renee asks, are we able to come to church today? Yes, please do. We've been a little tight on space, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't come. We have plans in place. There's kind of depending on who gets here first. If we fill up too much, we can send some people downstairs, and we've got the TV set up where people can watch the live stream. And there have been several people going down there to accommodate a bit more space. So the plan has been, as soon as we've reached this cap, like we're at right now, to actually split into 2 services on Sunday morning. Because I don't want it to ever feel like, is there room for me? Maybe, maybe not. That's one logistic issue for the church, for our congregation. But I want there to be plenty of space for us to actively go out there and invite people and witness to them. And so the plan has been to split into the 2 services. We're not doing that yet. And next Sunday's Father's Day, which traditionally is a bit low in attendance. Mother's Day spikes, Father's Day dips. That tells you a lot about how America views motherhood and fatherhood. Anyway, being a special day anyways, I thought it'd be nice for us to be as many people in the room at the same time as possible. But the week after that, I plan for us to switch to a 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. It's identical services. You just choose which one you come to, and that will give us the ability to have as many people as possible come. So anyway, that's that. Let's move into our reading. Psalm 60. And I tend to do this on Sundays. I try to read through our daily walk relatively quickly because there's a lot of preparation needs to be done for church and all that. So if you'll excuse me, I won't make as much commentary today so we can get things ready for church. But Psalm 60, to the chief musician upon Shushan Edith, which, if you haven't heard yet, is defined as the word lilies, like the flower, and there's no explanation. It's probably or possibly, since it's supposed to be upon lilies. I doubt that he means that you should sing this song while standing on a lily. I think it's probably the musical, the name of the tune or something like that, but I don't know. Michtam of David, to teach when he strove with Aram Haraim and with Aram Zobah, when Joab returned and smote of Edom in the valley of Salt 12,000. Okay, so I'm not quite sure. Is there biblical... I'm not sure if that history is actually written. I'm not recognizing Aram Naharaim or Aram Zobah. And so I wonder if this is actually a story that's not recorded in like Samuel or Chronicles or anything like that. I'd be curious to know more history on that, but who knows. Verse 1, O God, thou hast cast us off. Thou hast scattered us. Thou hast been displeased. O turn thyself to us again. Thou hast made the earth to tremble. Thou hast broken it. Heal the breaches thereof, for it shaketh. What a great prayer for today, huh? Heal the breaches thereof. Thou hast showed thy people hard things. Thou hast made us to drink the wine of astonishment. Thou hast given a banner to them that fear thee, that it may be displayed because of the truth, Selah. That thy beloved may be delivered, save with thy right hand and hear me. God has spoken in his holiness. I will rejoice. I will divide Shechem and mete out the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim also is the strength of mine head. Judah is my lawgiver. Moab is my washpot. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Wilt not thou, O God, which hadst cast us off, and thou, O God, which didst not go out with our armies? Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies. A lot in there that I want to talk about, but like I said, I need to move forward. But it's a prayer for help, but it's also an articulation of faith, and so it's a great psalm. I like that. Psalm 61, to the chief musician upon Nagina, a psalm of David, and Nagina again was a taunt song, and I think given the context of this, the content, I ought to say, I guess. The content here is very, it's kind of faith proclaiming. He's talking to God, and so I think the concept of it being a nagina, a taunt song, is not to taunt God in a way that would annoy him or bring him, to kind of call him out. Like this isn't a negative taunt. This is maybe provoking to love. It's a song intended to be provocative to express love to God. And anyway, that would be my initial thought of why it's supposed to be Nagina. But verse 1, hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, Selah. For thou, O God, hast heard my vows. Thou hast given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. Thou wilt prolong the king's life and his years as many generations. He shall abide before God forever. O prepare mercy and truth, which may preserve him. So will I sing praise unto thy name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. I love that prayer. Many of us have memorized the first 3 verses of Psalm 61 as a song. I think maybe we've sung it here at the church. I can't remember if it's in the little folder that we sing at Sunday school. But From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee when my heart is overwhelmed. That is a verse that comes to mind often for me. And then as a pastor, I find myself at hospitals and or on phone calls where people are enduring hardships. And this is a verse that often comes to mind as a verse of encouragement to them. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. But that's a great passage there. Psalm 62, to the chief musician, to Jeduthun, a psalm of David. Truly my soul waiteth upon God. From him cometh my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. How long will ye imagine mischief against a man? Ye shall be slain, all of you. As a bowing wall shall ye be, and as a tottering fence. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly. Selah. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. And God is my salvation and my glory. The rock of my strength and my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times. You people, pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Selah. Surely men of low degree are vanity, and men of high degree are a lie. To be laid in the balance, they are altogether lighter than vanity. Trust not in oppression, and become not vain in robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart upon them. God has spoken once. Twice have I heard this, that power belongeth unto God. Also unto thee, O Lord, belongeth mercy, for thou renderest to every man according to his work. I like the perspective that David had, which, by the way, David had experienced both poverty and wealth, and he is being very clear here that if riches increase, set not your heart upon them. You know, those times where you prosper, some more than others, but if you find yourself, all of a sudden you're rich and wealthy, that actually is a very common and dangerous stumbling block. And David is saying, look, if your riches increased, don't set your heart upon them. Don't treasure your treasure. Okay, Matthew tells us, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Don't consider wealth treasure. If I were to ask you, what is treasure? The answer to that question, well, all right, commonly, okay, I wouldn't say that if you said treasure equals gold, silver, and precious stones, that you're obsessed with money, but because that's what we commonly think of as treasure. But treasure is actually that which you cherish. Treasure is, it's kind of like the concept, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, treasure is in the eye of the beholder. I treasure my children. They are treasure. And basically, David's saying, if you get rich, just be careful not to make that your treasure. And use it. You can be grateful for it. Being rich is not unbiblical. God is very rich. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And God makes people rich. God made Solomon rich. God made David rich. God made Job rich. God made a lot of people rich. And he might make you rich, or he might have made you rich. I don't know. Many of you are laughing right now at that. But just be careful not to make your riches your treasure. And that goes for rich and poor. A lot of poor people make riches their treasure. And they pursue it like slaves for their whole lives trying to get rich. Rich or famous, those are the two things that people tend to treasure more above anything else. Psalm 63, a psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. O God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is, to see thy power and thy glory, so as I have seen thee in the sanctuary. David describes, just real quickly, his insatiable appetite or thirst for God, but he doesn't just say that. he specifically thirsts for something about God, and that is to see his power and his glory. And he has a taste of it, and that's why he knows he wants more of it. I wouldn't know that I want steak at just about any meal. If you offered me a ribeye, I don't care if it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. I don't care if it's been happening all week long for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I love ribeye, okay? I wouldn't know that had I never tasted ribeye, okay? Even if you told me, hey, you've never had ribeye before, but trust me, you would love it, I would probably be like, yeah, that would be great. I'd like to try it sometime. But I wouldn't have an appetite for it like I do. And David says that I long for you, I thirst for you, I hunger for you. Like a thirsty man in a desert. That's how much I want you. And specifically, I want to see your power, and I want to see your glory. Remember, David a few chapters ago was saying things like, my ears have heard about it, but I want my eyes to see it. And then a couple chapters after he said that, he actually says that his eyes have seen God's power and glory. And he says specifically where he's seen it in verse 2 here. I have seen thee in the sanctuary. So specifically, when he goes to the set apart place, in his instance, the synagogues or the tabernacle, and he knows that God's presence is there, and he's seen God's power in his life, and God has been glorified to him, that has just sparked an appetite for God that is insatiable for David. And I will just say this briefly. Many people have said, Pastor, how do I know I should read my Bible, and I know I ought to pray, and I know I ought to be passionate for God, but I don't desire it. Why don't I have a desire for it? We often want desire to precede partaking. I don't know if I'm saying that well. Look, I've never desired anything that I haven't understood. If I had never eaten steak before, I wouldn't have all that much of a desire for it. Even if people told me, hey, it's great, I would know that I probably would have a desire for it. But it's like we're waiting for this passion to arise in our hearts. And once that passion comes, that desire, that longing like David has, then I will open my Bible. Then I will spend an hour in prayer. Then I will love going to church. The fact of the matter is, you need to try it first. Get into the Word. Get active in prayer. Be a part of your church. And it's not until you have invested yourself into that experience that you begin to have an appetite for more of it. And that's what David is saying. I have this desire, this appetite for it because I've had it before. He's tasted that the Lord is good, and he wants more of what is good in his life. Verse 3, because thy loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise thee. Thus will I bless thee while I live. I will lift up my hands in thy name. My soul shall be satisfied as with marrow and fatness, and my mouth shall praise thee with joyful lips. When I remember thee upon my bed and meditate on thee in the night watches. Because thou hast been my help, therefore in the shadow of thy wings will I rejoice. My soul followeth hard after thee. Thy right hand upholdeth me. But those that seek my soul to destroy it shall go into the lower parts of the earth. They shall fall by the sword. They shall be a portion for foxes. But the king shall rejoice in God. Every one that sweareth by him shall glory. But the mouth of them that speak lies shall be stopped. Psalm 64, to the chief musician, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. I like the battle that he describes, how it's just like arrows are flying. He talks about their tongue is like a sword, just clinking swords everywhere. And there's just this barrage of weaponry coming at David, and ammunitions are being just released toward him. But notice the singularity of God's arrow. And it's all gone. God shoots his arrow and everything was fixed. And it reminds me of Martin Luther's hymn, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God, a Bulwark Never Failing." He talks about in I think it's the third or fourth verse of that song. Let's see if I can remember it. Basically, he says, "One mighty word shall fell him." The verse talks about the power of the enemy and the attack of the enemy and how he is seeking to work us woe. His craft and power are great. Armed with cruel hate, one mighty word shall fell him. So it kind of reminds me of Psalm 64. Psalm 65. To the chief musician, a psalm and song of David. Praise waiteth for thee, O God, in Zion, and unto thee shall the vow be performed. O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking about that concept, that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Verse 3, iniquities prevail against me. As for our transgressions, thou shalt purge them away. Blessed is the man whom thou choosest, and causeth to approach unto thee, that he may dwell in thy courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of thy house, even of thy holy temple. By terrible things in righteousness wilt thou answer us, O God of our salvation, who art the confidence of all the ends of the earth, and of them that are afar off upon the sea, which by his strength setteth fast the mountains, being girded with power, which stilleth the noise of the seas, the noise of their waves, and the tumult of the people. They also that dwell in the uttermost parts are afraid at thy tokens. Thou makest the goings, goodness. Thou makest the outgoings of the morning and evening to rejoice. Thou visitest the earth and waterest it. Thou greatly enrichest it with the river of God, which is full of water. Thou preparest them corn when thou hast so provided for it. Thou waterest the ridges thereof abundantly. Thou settlest the furrows thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the springing thereof. Thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. They drop upon the pastures of the wilderness, and the little hills rejoice on every side. The pastures are clothed with flocks. The valleys also are covered over with corn. They shout for joy. They also sing. Oh, that's cool. David just looks out over creation and just starts praising God for every aspect that he's looking at. And you clothe the hills with sheep, and you give water to all of the things that need watering. And he's just glorifying God for how amazing he is, and how creative, and how he provides for what he creates. And moving into Psalm 66, to the chief musician, a song or psalm. Make a joyful noise unto God, all ye lands. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say unto God, how terrible art thou in thy works! Through the greatness of thy power shall thine enemies submit themselves unto thee. All the earth shall worship thee and shall sing unto thee. They shall sing to thy name, Selah. Come and see the works of God. He is terrible in his doing toward the children of men. He turned the sea into dry land. They went through the flood on foot. There did we rejoice in him. That's a reference to Moses and the children of Israel going through the Red Sea. Verse 7. He ruleth by his power forever. His eyes behold the nations. Let not the rebellious exalt themselves. Selah. O bless our God, ye people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, which holdeth our soul in life, and suffereth not our feet to be moved. For thou, O God, hast proved us. Thou hast tried us as silver is tried. Thou broughtest us into the net. Thou laidst affliction upon our loins. Thou hast caused men to ride over our heads. We went through the fire and through water, but thou broughtest us out into a wealthy place. I will go into thy house with burnt offerings. I will pay thee my vows, which my lips have uttered and my mouth have spoken when I was in trouble. I will offer unto thee burnt sacrifices of fatlings with the incense of rams. I will offer bullocks with goats. Selah. Come and hear, all ye that fear God, and I will declare what he hath done for my soul. I cried unto him with my mouth, and he was extolled with my tongue. If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. But verily God hath heard me. He hath attended to the voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, which hath not turned away my prayer, nor his mercy from me. Verse 18 has often been extracted and isolated, which is not a bad thing. We often, when we're talking about prayer, kicked the thing there. When we talk about prayer, a lot of times you'll hear this verse that you need to deal with your sin before you're ready to commune with God. Okay, so confess your sin to God, deal with that, and then talk to him about other things. And we use this verse, if I regard iniquity in my heart, if I've got sin that's unconfessed and undealt with, the Lord will not hear me. But I guess more expanded, if we bring that verse back into its context, it's actually part of a bigger logic, okay? And he says, I cried unto him with my mouth, and he was extolled with my tongue. He's inviting everybody in verse 16, come and hear, all ye that fear God, and I will declare what he hath done for my soul. So David's calling a testimony service. Anybody that fears God, come. I've got some things I want to say to just glorify him. And then he proves why they should listen to him. Is I cried unto him with my mouth, and he was extolled with my tongue. So he says, when I talked to God, he responded. And David knows this principle that if I regard iniquity in my heart, God wouldn't have heard me. But verily God hath heard me. He hath attended to the voice of my prayer. So it's a good, verse 18 is good for us to know. And it's useful in a conversation about prayer. But David is really, the point of this verse was to prove to others that they should come listen to him glorify God, because God is listening to him. I'll speak as David. I prayed and God responded. That means that God is listening to me right now. So what I have to say about him is going to be accurate. So he's providing some logic. And blessed be God, which hath not turned away my prayer, nor his mercy from me. Great passages that we read today. I wish we could talk more, but I do need to get going and get some things prepared for church. See if there's any comments over here. Refresh the church page there. On Facebook, got some good mornings from everybody. Good morning from beautiful Cape Cod, Kevin Willis says. Good for you, Kevin and Kathy. I hope you guys are having a good time. Honestly, it's been a long couple months, and I hope that you guys are able to just get some good rest and just kind of be reinvigorated a little bit and just refreshed by it all. So good for you guys. Glad to see you. Hi, Janice. Hi, Dave, and everybody else. I don't see any new comments today or right now, so we will move on. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for how rich it is. I pray that we would love it. Lord, that we would develop that appetite for it. Lord, that we would get into it. And after we've tasted the goodness of a relationship with you, that we would begin to develop a more nuanced and a greater appetite for you. I pray that you bless the service this morning, as well as our fellowship groups tonight. I pray